use a water or something to drink? Or
I had one, they just took it from me when I got up. And
would you like us to see about getting some water?
yeah, I think I'm fine.
Well, at any time during this, and you need something, you let us know, and we will make sure that whatever you need to drink or get, we'll provide that for you. Understand that?
Okay. Yeah, I haven't had anything to eat still, but
would you like something to eat?
no, I don't. Especially now, I can handle it. I mean, they've offered me plenty of it. Just keep turning it down. But
So they've been pretty nice to you?
yeah.
Good.
Kevin, do you know where you are?
Yeah, I'm in
Police department.
Purcell, the police department, yeah.
Reason, basically, we want to be sure that you know what you're doing. You know that by talking to us, we want to be sure that you've been treated right. And since we have not seen you for the last few hours, we want to make sure everybody's treated you good and treated you right.
Yeah, they've often, that's almost annoying how often they keep asking if I'm okay and if I need anything to drink or eat.
Okay,
I
well,
just started feeling sick about the last half hours.
Just nausea.
Yeah, just kind of all getting to me, and
Are you
kind of
nervous?
like some little acid reflux and stuff from the nervous and everything.
did you feel okay about talking to us?
Yeah.
Well, you remember Craig Overby,
Yeah.
and I'm Mark Mack, and you'll recognize us as the two FBI agents that visited with you earlier.
Asked for you.
Okay, great. For the record, we want to just to make sure that you understand your rights. We're going to have you read this to us. And can you read mine?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, just for the record.
It's part of our job as FBI, just make sure that your rights are protected. And that's why we want to be sure that you understand these.
And so I'll begin with this. This form is one that's been produced for the Purcell Police Department, so you'll see their name at the top.
Okay.
And it says warning of rights.
You must understand your rights before we ask you any questions. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court or other proceedings. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we question you and to have him with you during questioning. If you cannot afford a lawyer and want one, a lawyer will be appointed for you. If you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you will still have the right to stop the questioning at any time. You also have the right to stop the questioning at any time until you talk to a lawyer. I've read the statement of my rights and it has been read to me, and I understand what my rights are.
Is there any part of that you want to go over, or is there anything that's not clear to you?
It's all right.
Okay, and you know today's date?
I'm tired right now.
You know today's date? 14th. Yeah, it's still the 14th.
It had changed, midnight had changed over, yes.
And it's 10:14 p.m.
10:14. Okay.
Just sign your name right there.
Yeah, I'm used to being asleep by 8:30.
When you get up at, 2 in the morning to go to work?
3 in the morning.
Let's also read this, where it says waiver of rights, if you would read this, Kevin, for me.
I hereby voluntarily and intentionally waive my rights, and I am willing to make a statement and answer questions. I do not want a lawyer. I understand and know what I am doing. No promises or threats have been made to me, and no pressure or coercion of any kind has been used against me.
And we want to make sure that's true, because we haven't been with you for the last few hours. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
And once again, put the same date. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there wasn't any pressure or coercion, but just one of them was like, it'd probably be a lot better off for you if you just cooperated with us and talked right now.
Do you remember who it was that said that to you?
Probably not good with names.
Okay, was he you know who he was with? Was he was he FBI or was he?
I think he was FBI.
Okay.
And now it's 10:15, approximately a minute later. And this is the certification, and we just get her all read along with you. Go ahead and read aloud.
I hereby certify that the foregoing warning and waiver of rights were read by me to the above signatory, and that he also read it and has affixed his signature hereto in my presence.
Okay, and you're,
Let me sign. I'll sign as a witness.
and he signs on the signature on that? All right. I'm here, Craig?
Yeah, I guess that's where you can sign.
Well, along with all our signatures on it, we're all in agreement as to this conversation. And then you sign there. Now, Kevin, we're going to go over a couple of rules about how we'll do the interview. And just for the record, we'll ask you here in a minute to state your full name, your date of birth, your social security number, your current address, and your job. And then after you do that for the record, we're going to have you ask you about maybe getting a consent to search. But go ahead, for the record, tell us your full name.
Kevin Ray Underwood.
Would you spell the last name?
Underwood.
And what is your date of birth, Kevin?
12/19/79.
12/19/1979.
Yeah.
And your social security number?
440-802599.
440-802599. Okay. What is your current address?
1000 North 8th, apartment 115, Purcell, Oklahoma 73080.
And do you have a home telephone number?
405-527-5349.
Okay.
You work at what's the grocery store that you work for?
Well, I said I technically work for the grocery store, but I work at Grider's Foods Cost Less. At
What do they do there?
there's the grocery store.
It's a grocery store. What's your job there?
Supermarket. Well, I work for the distribution company that supplies the like Mexican import goods, and I just work in there and stock the shelves with that stuff.
Okay. Is your job a manual labor job, or do you do any kind of paperwork with
No,
that
it's
job?
all manual labor.
Okay. And how long have you worked there?
I can't remember exactly for sure, but I think it's been something like 11 months, maybe a year.
Okay. And your dad helped you get that job? Because he
Pretty much, yeah. He was. He orders a few things for his. He works back in the meat market. He doesn't work for the same company I do. He works for the store. He's a manager of the meat market, and he orders some spices from my employer. And so he had heard that the guy was looking for some help, and he suggested me.
Okay. I'll tell you something that surprised me when we were talking. I was going to interrupt for a second. You seem like a very intelligent person, just from the moment I started talking to you. And when you said, I've been to college for a couple of years at the Arts and Science, that didn't surprise me. I said, because this strikes me as a guy who's got a college degree, just in your demeanor and the way you talk. You have such good language skills, maybe even better than mine. Sound a little country, I guess.
You're very articulate.
Very articulate.
We didn't have any problem understanding you.
I always feel like I have a horrible accent. I didn't used to have much of an accent at all, but it seems like just over the last 2 or 3 years, my vocal skills have gone downhill.
But you don't sound that way to me at all. Like I said, you sound very smart to me.
My vocabulary is not what it once was.
As a part, and I'm sure you've watched TV, but as a part of the investigation, they're going to want to search your apartment.
Yeah, I already signed a thing earlier saying they could.
Okay.
Hours ago.
And here's the situation, Kevin. We want to go ahead and get another one for the record to have it in line with also this waiver of rights, so that we can just go through this and make sure you're clear this is the direction you want to go. Okay. And I understand about the other, but this is just in furtherance of us following all the rules and regulations, is just doing this properly, so that you know what you're doing and we know what we're doing. What we'd like to do, and I wanted to go back when you mentioned your address. You gave your address, and I understood that. Would you go ahead and put down, let's read it together first, and it will say, I,
Kevin Underwood.
why don't you go ahead and well, read it first, and then we'll have you write your name in there.
Hereby grant my consent to Craig Overby and Martin Mag, officers of the Purcell Police Department.
Well, we'll scratch that out and put, we're going to make it, and for the record here, we're going to scratch that out, but, and special agents, I'll have you initial this, of the FBI Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And or other law enforcement officers, including the OSBI. Okay, so this, just to keep this in perspective, this could be any law enforcement officer in the state of Oklahoma.
Okay.
Is that clear to you? Do you have any questions about who these people, what agencies they could be with? It could be the OSBI, the Purcell Police Department, it could be the FBI, it could be
What
the
exactly is the OSBI?
Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation.
Yeah,
Like a state's bureau, except we're the federal,
Yeah,
but they're
okay.
state.
Okay. Basically, they would have a criminal jurisdiction in the
Yeah,
state.
I guess I don't see why it doesn't matter who.
Well, okay. Now, your car, can you describe the car?
It's a silver, gray silver, 98 Buick Sabre.
Okay.
Have you had your license plate number memorized?
No.
I think, would you recognize it as MPP116?
I think that's it.
Just not 100% sure.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what my license plate number is.
Do you know what year it is?
The car, or 1998.
And where is it parked currently?
Right outside my apartment, pretty much. It's pretty much right outside my bedroom window, kind of right there in the parking lot.
Is there any way that we can identify this vehicle other than the tag number? Is there something in it that you could specifically say is this Buick LeSabre?
Oh, there's bumper stickers on the back.
What are those bumper stickers?
One of them says anybody but Bush, and other one says U.S. government philosophy: if it ain't broke, fix it till it is.
We don't hold that against you, by the way. He and I ran against the government probably more than you do.
We have our moments. Okay, so you're and to reiterate this with you, you have a Buick LeSabre in 1998. It's silver.
Yeah.
It's got two stickers on it, but was identified, and the vehicle tag may be MPP116.
Yeah.
Okay. And then give me your apartment again.
Apartment.
Your address.
1000 North 8.
I'm asking something,
Yeah.
because I'm about to bust. Where's the bicycle?
Y'all haven't found it?
No.
Well, I took it apart, but I mean, it's most of it's just right under the bed.
Oh, okay. You took it apart and put it under the bed.
Oh, the like main frame and the back wheel are under the bed, and the rest of it's in. There's like a big duffel bag in the closet with the air conditioner, and that's where
Okay.
all the pieces are.
Oh, okay.
So,
See, I don't even know if they've been in there yet, so I don't know.
Taking it apart so I can, transport it out.
I see.
So it's 1000 North 8th, Purcell, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I was guessing the trunk of your car.
No, there's nothing in the car.
What's your apartment number?
115.
115, and it's downstairs.
Yeah.
And I'm having a hard time seeing this light. Tell me that zip again.
73080.
Okay. And we will not be searching any places of business, so I will just draw a line through there. Okay.
Let me ask you, is there anything relevant where you work, like a locker or anything
No.
that would be relevant to this? Okay.
And Kevin, if you would just print your name up here.
Credit.
And if you would initial each one of these paragraphs that we've gone over, again, that you're authorizing law enforcement officers, including OSBI, FBI, and other local or state agencies to conduct a search of your vehicle, part of your apartment, and your apartment that you've identified here.
I need to put the full name, middle name too.
Yes, if you don't mind.
Okay, so just initial over here somewhere.
Yeah, the car, initial the part by the car, where we made those changes to include the FBI and the OSBI people and whomever would be associated as assistants of those agencies. and then the house part, the apartment 115, just for that. And then this is not an issue here, and then sign your name here. And yes, sir.
I wrote those on the wrong lines.
That's okay. That's okay. It's the information that's correct.
Okay.
And Craig and I will sign this.
When you were in school, you were English major?
I never declared a major. It's
Was that where you were leaning?
what I was probably intending on being, yeah.
Do you see, I noticed that you liked Hunter Thompson. And do you see yourself as like a writer?
I always wanted to be, but I just didn't really have the skill. I mean, I haven't wrote anything in years.
Were you ever a journalist, where you would write journals?
No.
Were you that type of guy that would write a lot of journals?
No, well, I do have a blog, like online journal thing I write in. I haven't even wrote it hardly in a couple of months.
Well, when you were writing your blog, what would you write? What would you do? What would you like to write about?
Mainly just, I mean, like what happened to me during the day.
It's like an online diary?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. We kind of go back. We've had the day just kind of went wham, wham, wham. Just took everybody kind of by surprise, I think.
Yeah, we were definitely surprised. We were shocked about our discovery with you, and it was a complete surprise to both of us.
But we think, I think at some point you realized you had to do the right thing and tell what happened.
Yeah.
And why don't you go right back from the very start? When did this kind of thought first occur to you to maybe do something like this? How long has this been with you?
A couple of months, probably. I was telling one of the guys earlier, I don't know if it has anything to do with the medication I'm on or what, but because it started about the same time I went back on it.
Now, the first time you were on it, did you have that problem?
No, the first time I took medication a year or two ago, it seemed fine, but then about a month and a half ago, I got back on it again, and ever since I started taking it again, I've just been like eating constantly, just from the minute I get home to the minute I go to sleep. Nearly I eat. I've gained probably 20, 30 pounds in the last month, and about the same time, I just seemed like started having all these weird fantasies and everything.
When do you think the first time in your life, and we understand this, I mean, what you experienced is nothing unusual. There are some people that fantasize, about different things that, for instance, one guy might fantasize being with 3 different women, and that's kind of what turns him on. And some people, their fantasies may go a little more violent. Some people, they might fantasize about handcuffing somebody and having sex. And it maybe progresses a little bit, but when do you first think you started having, fantasies of this nature? Was it as a teenager? Did you have this as a teenager?
No, it was all recently.
Can you describe what your fantasy is for us, for the record?
Well, it started off as cannibalism. Just the, I wanted to, know what it tasted like, and just the thought of eating, someone, was appealing to me. But then, it kept kind of evolving from there, because I am, sexually frustrated. I haven't had sex in 4 years.
Was it with, when you went out to San Francisco, did you?
No, well, I went out to Nevada to stay with that guy and his wife a couple of times.
Can you say their names, because I forgot,
You never told us. You told us you had knew a guy in the Navy. That's all.
His name is Christopher Lansdale. And
Lansdale?
Yeah.
Christopher Lansdale?
He's in the Navy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you said he was stationed in Nevada?
Yeah.
Do you know what base it is?
Fowlin was the name of the town. It was a naval air station.
Okay.
And now he's stationed down in Fort Worth somewhere. I don't know the name of the station though.
He's down at Fort Worth Naval Air Station.
Yeah.
I've been by there.
But anyway, and like the second time I went out there, you know, like me, you know, like I'm his best friend, and then this girl was like, there was this other girl, Christina Bray. She was like his wife's best friend, and we, you know, both took a bus out there together to go stay with him for a couple of weeks. And we ended up at the end of it, you know, like when we came back to Oklahoma, going out a few times. It was, we went out like 4 or 5 times and had sex a couple of times, and then she just like stopped returning my phone calls. And that was the first and the last time I've ever had sex. So.
What was it like with her? Can you describe it?
Well, I'm very shy, and it was pretty awkward for me. I mean, she, you know, I like couldn't take the hit. You know, she was like, she didn't even really want to go on a date. It turned out that's the reason she probably stopped taking my calls. Is she didn't want a boyfriend. She just wanted someone to have sex with, like once a week or two. And I kind of wanted a girlfriend, and I guess she wasn't okay with that, and so stopped talking to me.
Okay. Now, have you ever read about Jeremy Dahmer?
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer, that's it. Did you ever read up on the internet? Because
I've never really
describe
Yeah, I've never really studied any of them in depth. I have on my DVD rack in the living room, you'll see there's a 2-disc DVD set of, it's like 4 episodes of some A&E special. One's like over Manson, and I can't even remember who they are. There's like 3 of them, 3 different killers, and then the 4th one, like, you know, just the kind of the investigative methods they used to find them. I mean, it wasn't at the time, you know, it wasn't like, oh, I want to do this. You know, it was just, it's like, oh, these are kind of interesting. So,
did that, as you were planning this out, did your knowledge of investigations that you've learned from watching A&E, did that play into any of this? Did you think about, well, this is what I need to do? Because, you know, we all have experiences watching TV.
yeah. Feeling sick.
Bring that over to you.
Just very slightly. I mean, I didn't know much. I don't watch a lot of TV. But I, you know, thought about, tried to imagine like steps I could take. You know.
Give yourself a second. Okay.
Yeah, I might need some water, but.
Let's see if I can.
We're going to take a break here in the interview, and I'll note that it is now.
Hello.
Get you a couple more. What time do you have, Craig? When you're watching? When I start watching?
10:34.
It's now 10:30.
A bottle of water.
Thank you. And we're going to ask for a bottle of water. Fill up the resume?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's,
We'll get you some
I'm
water.
good now.
We'll get you some water and we'll get started again.
Pardon me, so I'm just not used to talking this much.
Yeah.
Keeps drying my mouth out. It's usually pretty quiet down in the house much.
Thank you.
Talk to anyone. I hate using the telephone.
Is it, I'll tell you, the thing about my personality is I'm a kind of guy, and I think you're the same way, but like in my office, I have things in a certain way. I mean, I put things in a certain place. Are you a planner? Are you a guy that likes to plan?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I certainly planned this out. I mean, I've been thinking about it for at least a month, so about a month.
Now, was it specifically the girl in question, or was
No,
it?
I told the guy earlier it could have really been anyone. I mean, age and it wasn't even, you know, it wasn't necessarily, you know, pedophile thing either. I mean, age and even gender didn't even really matter to me. I just, at first I just wanted basically to eat someone, and then it turned into, while I'm at it, I'm gonna, you know, get off, you know, have sex with him, you know.
Were you going to have sex before or after, or both?
Well, my plan My original plan, the way I had envisioned it all going was I was going to just like grab him and like,
Just any person.
yeah, just well, I did kind of favor this girl a little. I'd seen her and I was like, I was kind of like, well, I'd really like her. But then as I saw her more and more, I'd think, no, I can't hurt her. She's nice. I know her too well.
What's her name for the record?
I didn't even know it until this happened. It was Jamie Bolin or something like that.
How did you learn of her name?
Newspaper.
Newspaper.
I didn't even know her name until today.
Is the account of the newspaper's description of Jamie Bolin the same girl that we're talking about for the purposes of this interview?
Seems like it. I had no idea she was 10. I would have sworn she was probably 12 or 13. By the way
Can you
she
just,
looked.
for the record, describe it before you continue on?
Describe her?
Yeah, her physical appearance.
She was had thin red hair, glasses. She was a little chubby.
And where did she live?
Upstairs and across.
Do you know the apartment number?
I was 115, so maybe I think like 213.
But it was up and across from you.
Yeah, upstairs and across the hall.
I just want to make sure I was clear on that, who it was, and you can go ahead with Mr. Overby's questions.
I don't know if you remember when we first talked, we mentioned her, and you said, I could never hurt her because she reminds me of my sister.
Yeah.
Why did you say that? Was that true, or were you, at the time, were you trying to throw us off? Or
That was, more or less something I thought of after I already did it.
Okay. You thought that you could tell us later if you were ever asked, hey, I could never do this because she kind of looks like my sister anyway.
Kind of, yeah.
Did that play any part whatsoever? You got rage towards your sister or
No,
anger towards
not
your
at
sister?
all. Right. This is, I said, I hate my parents finding out about this, and especially hate her finding out about this.
You love your family.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've always been a mama's boy, too, so
Oh, okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
really hating it. Because this will probably literally kill her if she wasn't in the best of health anyway.
Yeah. Now, tell us, as within the last month, you started thinking about this. Tell us the plan that you came up with in your head.
Well, like I said, I was just going to grab whoever, and I had some handcuffs and some duct tape. I was going to, handcuff them and put the duct tape over their mouth so they couldn't scream.
Where's the handcuffs now?
Where are they? They're in. I have a bag in the closet that has a bunch of like porn and sex toys and stuff in it.
Okay.
And they're in there.
How long?
Which
have
closet is it? Is it the one
The
where
one,
the
that,
duct is?
no,
or the
yeah,
one
the one that the body was in.
Where the Luke-
big walk-in closet.
How long have you had that bag with the porn and the handcuffs and all that stuff?
Well, some of the stuff I've had for years.
Okay.
I don't think anything in it's a recent addition.
What kind of? Tell us what's in that bag.
Well, there's like a fake vagina, and then like I said, gender didn't even really matter. I've never done anything with a guy, but I've always been bi-curious. I got a vibrator and a couple of dildos. Then there's some like novelty things like the handcuffs and blindfold.
Are they real functional handcuffs that would restrain somebody?
They've got the little releases on them. People could get out of them if they really tried. Yeah.
Okay. It's designed for.
Yeah. I
sex.
got them at a Christie's Toy Box at a sex store.
Okay. Have you always been interested in like, I guess like S&M games?
Not at all. No. Neither bondage or S&M. I just mainly got the handcuffs here about a year or so ago because there was a girl I liked who was kind of into handcuffs, and I was like, well, if I ever end up getting involved with her.
It's something that you thought maybe you guys talked and you knew she liked that, and
Yeah.
was it an internet deal?
No, it was well, who was it that liked him? Was it the internet woman or was it the girl I worked with? I think it might have been the girl I work with. My previous job before this one, I worked at the Carl's Jr. down there for 9 years, and there was
In personnel?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
and there was a girl there I worked with for several years, and we were pretty good friends. It's still we're still in contact online rarely. I talked to her a few days ago, and that was the first time I talked to her in about a month. And I think it was her that, I had a crush on her for like 2 or 3 years, and I think it was her that liked him.
What did you do with Carl's Jr. for 9 years?
Cashier. They offered me management a long time ago, but I just didn't want it. Didn't want the responsibility for basically no extra money. And, so I was mainly a cashier, usually in the drive-thru.
Why'd you leave Carl's Jr.?
Because it was low pay, and I'd been there for 9 years and was sick of it. And I got, my dad found me this better job. So
Better pay?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, going back to the plan, you had the handcuffs and the duct tape.
Yeah, so what I was going to do is I was going to, like I said, yank them in there, restrain them, and if it was a kid, I was going to just make them sit there and watch some porn first, and then I was going to have sex with them. And then...
Were you going to try to turn them on with the porn and make it voluntary?
I was, kind of hoping that would happen, but I, figured it probably wouldn't.
So you assumed that you would have to do it by force?
Yeah, most likely.
Okay.
And then, after the sex, it would turn kind of violent. I'd start kind of torturing them a little and stuff like that.
How would you torture them? In your fantasies, what would you do?
Sticking large objects in their anus, causing them pain that way. I had some long barbecue skewers I bought. I was going to poke through their cheeks. I've got in that bag of porn, there's also a Barbie doll head I found on the ground a while back that I stuck some needles in. Kind of illustrates what was in my fantasy. It had like some needles in its cheeks and some nails in its eyes, but I wasn't intending on doing that because the torture was kind of a late addition because at first I wanted the body to be pretty much unharmed. Because what I was going to do after that then was I was going to, while they were still alive and gagged, I was going to drape them over the bathtub and cut off their head. And then hang them there and let the blood all drain out, good and drained out. And I was going to keep the body around for a couple of days. I was going to set the head on my desk so it could watch me. And, keep the corpse in my bed, sleeping with it, having sex with it for a day or two, and then I was going to start butchering them and cooking them. So,
okay. Did you buy any pots or any special things for that?
Just the barbecue skewers and some meat tenderizer powder, and hacksaw to cut open the head to get to the brain because I wanted to eat the brain and the heart and some of the organs.
It's been my experience that a lot of people who like or think about those kind of things maybe experiment with animals. Have you ever experimented with animals?
No, I told the guy earlier, in fact, this, like I've said, this is just entirely against my nature. If I told him I'm not really religious, but what beliefs I do have would be pretty much best described as Buddhist. I didn't even like stepping on bugs. I didn't believe in violence or anything until this happened.
Okay.
So.
Now, after you chopped the head off and maybe cooked them, and what could you continue on from there?
Then it went into disposing of the body. I was probably going to keep the skull, but then I was going to pretty much eat everything except for some of the organs, and those I figured I could put in a trash bag and probably throw away without too much chance of getting caught. So basically all that'd be left was bones, and I was going to try to break the bones up into little pieces so they wouldn't be as visible, and dump them in a ditch somewhere.
Okay.
Or if that was my original plan. That's what I wanted to do, but
Now, did you ever write any of this down on your computer?
No.
But they're going to go through your computer really good.
Yeah, I already deleted, as soon as, I never had anything wrote down, but I already deleted a lot of the porn and stuff off my computer.
After this happened?
Yeah, as soon as, the cops, started sniffing around,
Asking.
Because all the porn's there, but I had a lot of, in the last couple of months, I'd been to a bunch, there's a lot of websites out there where you can download like crime scene photos, like real dead bodies and stuff like that. And I had a fairly large collection of those. I deleted like all of those.
Okay.
And I never had any child pornography, and it might still be on there because I think I put it in a different directory than the rest of the porn. I had just a couple, like 4 or 5 pictures I downloaded from like a children's swimwear catalog of like 10-year-old girls in swimsuits. But that's close as I ever had to like any child pornography or anything.
Do you have anything on your computer, you sure that you destroyed that stuff? Or did you just go delete off the reset? Could still be a burn on your hard drive.
Yeah, they say none of that's permanent unless, they claim there's programs now that can make it permanent. But no, all I did was, dragged it to the trash bin and had, empty trash bins. So it can most likely be recovered probably.
Okay, you didn't go, I forgot what it's called. It starts with an N, but there's a certain program that if you use that, you can really wipe stuff out.
Yeah,
but you didn't go through that trouble.
There's programs like that all over. I see advertised, but no, I don't have any of those.
Okay, they're going. If they heard about this, they're really going to pull this stuff up. When did you think you first started downloading this kind of stuff? Because they're going to know for a fact.
Yeah, well, the cannibalism thing started probably a year or so ago. Might have been while I was on the medication the first time, but I'm not sure. I don't think so, but it might have been.
Now, Kevin, for the record, you're currently taking your medication, is that correct?
Yeah.
Did you take it today?
Yeah.
And you say it works for you?
It doesn't really help with the anxiety. I'm still shy, and I still can't really talk to people. But I don't have like the panic attacks, and I don't get depressed about, not having a social life.
Well, are you aware of your actions and fully understanding what you're doing?
As far as I know, yeah.
Now, so
But I think it might have maybe lowered my inhibitions a little or something like that.
Maybe so. You might have
He recognizes what you're doing as being against the law?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, is there any questions that you have about that?
No, I know what I did was wrong, and I know that I deserve to be punished for it.
So the deal with cannibalism may have been as long ago, but
yeah, but I mean, it wasn't something I was. I mean, I was kind of interested in, kind of curious as to what it would taste like, and it kind of aroused me, and I, kind of masturbated to some of the pictures because there's this website I found, I don't even remember what it is now, where you could download lots of, fake computer graphic images of women on spits and stuff like that, and, cooking over a fire or whatever.
And you found it sexually arousing?
Yeah, very. But it was the thought of killing someone, though, at the same time. It was, in my mind, it was like, well, I'd only do it, if the woman, wanted to die and wanted me to eat her. I wouldn't, go out and kill someone. Murder's wrong. I wouldn't ever murder someone. That's the way I thought at the time.
Okay.
But I've been surfing internet porns for probably 12, 13 years, and there's a lot of weird stuff on the internet, and so as the years went by, I just kind of got kind of desensitized to normal porn and just had to keep going after harder and harder core stuff until it finally got to kind of this cannibalism point. And then here recently after that, I started to kind of seriously think about it and develop an interest in these pictures of real death and cannibalism and
have you ever read
gore and gruesome things. And
have you ever read psychology books or internet sites, and just out of curiosity, reading about people with like interests, or to say, hey, somebody like me who, likewise people who would get sexual gratifications out of possible cannibalism, or viewing women on spits or things like that.
That site, that I downloaded all the fake pictures from, it was a message board mostly, and it was mostly text, but people would, it's like, here's this picture I made with my computer. And it was, so it was all people with the same interests, and, pretty much, probably 95% of them, from what they said on there anyway, were of the same mindset as me. I would never do this, but it's fun to fantasize about.
It's a fun fantasy.
It's it's an interesting fantasy that gets me off, but I would never kill anyone. And given the chance, I would probably not ever actually eat someone. Was most of their opinions.
So you
yes.
would masturbate if you to this fantasy of a cannibalization, like seeing a woman on a spit or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. When did it first enter your mind that yes, I'm going to do this today?
Well, not today, but
I'm sorry.
Wednesday.
When
You mean
what
that
day
day?
happened?
Well,
That Wednesday. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
And what day was that for the record?
Wednesday.
You know what day of the April, or what are we, April?
Yeah,
No,
this is the 14th, so that'd been what, the 11th? Yeah, it was
And
Friday the 14th, Thursday the
Thursday the 13th, Wednesday the 12th. Yeah, I'm bad with dates.
Yeah.
well, I didn't understand. Wednesday the 12th?
Yeah.
Do you know for sure it was a Wednesday?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
definitely Wednesday because I'm off on Wednesday and I was off work that day.
Okay. Go ahead. I just didn't
Did you plan it
understand.
for your day off?
It was, well, I'd been planning it, like I said, I've been planning it for months, buying supplies and, trying to get the exact plan down of what I do and how I dispose of it afterwards.
And the exact victim?
And, well, like I said, I kind of wanted her, but it didn't really matter. I mean, that's to tell the truth, that's the main reason I was hanging out in front of my apartment, is to watch all the kids and watch all the people come and go. And it was, I had pretty much planned all along to probably get a kid, just mainly because they'd be easier to grab and easier to get rid of afterwards, smaller, and, put up less of a fight. But there was a few, girls my age, I'd be like, well, she's really attractive. I wouldn't mind, killing and eating her and having sex with her and all that. But,
Did you find her attractive?
not really, no. She was kind of homely. But that was part of me that, kind of found her attractive, but at the same time, not really.
What did you mean by homely?
Well, I don't know, she just had, she was almost bald. She had, really thin hair, really thinning hair, and
What color was it again?
light red. It was almost a blondish red. And, she was a little chubby, and, just kind of wasn't my type, basically.
And you said again, you thought, how old was she?
I would have sworn she was at least 12, maybe 13.
So you were pretty confident you knew she was a kid. I mean, there wasn't any question.
Yeah. I mean, some of the kids that when I was first thinking about it, I was looking at it, like 5-year-old boys running around out there playing all day. So I mean, the age and the gender didn't really matter to me.
Now, when did you come up with Wednesday would be the day?
Basically, the instant it happened. I mean, like I said, there was plenty of times before that I could have grabbed her if I wanted, or grabbed some other kid, but especially her, because like I say, she got to where she talked to me, and she'd actually been in my apartment a couple of times before that. She'd come down, because one time I was standing out there with my pet rat, holding it and had it on my shoulder, and she thought it was cute and she wanted to pet it. And then later that evening, I still had my front door open, but I was sitting on the couch watching TV, and she just kind of wandered into my apartment and said, "Can I pet your rat?" So she seemed like a very trusting
Do you
kid.
remember how long ago that was? To put it in perspective for me.
Week, maybe two, probably about a week. But yeah, she was a very trusting kid. If it hadn't been me, it could have ended up being someone else, because like I said, she just wandered into my apartment. I didn't force her in there or even ask her in. And so she came in for a few minutes and looked at my rat and fed it a food pellet. And then Tuesday night, the night before this happened, she came down. I guess they didn't have a phone upstairs, because I'd see her occasionally go to, there's a payphone on the other side of the compound. She'd go down there and use that. And she was going down there to, her father sent her down there to call Mazio's and order some pizza for her. But I was standing there in my doorway, and she's just like, "Can I use your phone?" And so I let her use my phone. She stayed outside though. She's like, "Oh, I don't want to get in trouble for coming into your apartment." So she did step in.
You have a cordless phone?
Yeah,
Okay.
she stepped in for a minute, but then once I gave her to the phone, she was like, "Well, I better get outside." And so I had plenty of chances to get her, but like I said, every time I'd be thinking, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I want to get her, definitely her." But then I'd see her, and be, "Oh, I'm going to get her this time," and then be like, then I'd see her though, and "No, I can't hurt her," all that. And I mean, that happened pretty much every kid, but I'd kind of wimp out at the last minute, but especially her, because I kind of liked her. But then, this Wednesday she came in. Now, she came home from school.
Let me ask you this real quick. Going back to Tuesday night, and she came into your house and used the phone.
Yeah.
During the overnight hours when you were home and into the next day, did you engage in any fantasy on the internet? I mean, did that kind of turn you on, the thought of, yeah, I could have almost done it, and did you fantasize about it over that night, or did you go to websites the night and then in the morning till the next day?
No, I hadn't been to any of the websites really recently because I just downloaded a bunch of the pictures of my hard drive and I looked at them. So I hadn't really been to any of the websites, and most of it had probably been a week or more. So.
Were you looking at it on your hard drive?
Yeah, I had them all stored on my computer.
On Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, were you looking at them on your hard drive?
Probably not, because another thing that kept it from happening so long is, I'd be standing there in the doorway fantasizing about it, preparing to grab a kid, and I'd get so turned on I'd end up masturbating, and, like as soon as I had an orgasm, I'd just be hit with disgust. I mean, like, my God, what am I thinking about? You can't do that. That's horrible. And so that's usually what would happen.
Let me ask you, when you masturbate, how would you clean it up? What would you do? Would you masturbate in a towel, or would you masturbate into a jug?
No, usually Kleenex or onto the floor, and then I'd clean it up with a wet rag.
Did you just flush it down the toilet, or?
Well, I usually use a wet rag, and then I just rinse the rag out and then wash it when I did my laundry.
Okay. So, did you masturbate about it Tuesday night?
Probably.
After she left?
I'm sure I probably did.
And then how late?
No, Tuesday night, because I think when she came down to use my phone, I had already, I think, masturbated probably for the day, and I wasn't even really, planning it anymore at the time. I was just kind of standing there for real, just kind of hanging out, getting some air, and she's like, "Can I use your phone?"
What did you do Tuesday night before you went to sleep?
I don't remember. Probably was playing my game I usually play online.
How late did you stay up, you think, playing?
I'm usually in bed by 8 or 8:30.
Because you get up so early.
Yeah, because I get up at 3. That's when I'm.
What is the game?
You play it right there on the computer. You don't download anything. You just go to the website, and it's fully contained on the website. It's called Kingdom of Loathing.
Yeah. Okay.
It was it had nothing to do with this. I hate for it to even. It's probably going to end up getting bad publicity from this. But it was just a silly little harmless game.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was what I spent the majority of the time doing. I mean, if I wasn't at work, until I started hanging out, doing all this, if I wasn't at work, I was probably on there playing that game.
Okay. It was a hobby.
Yeah, it was my main hobby.
Okay. Now, how much sleep did you get Tuesday night, Wednesday, till Wednesday morning? If you went to bed at 8 on Tuesday.
Oh yeah, I was off Wednesday, so I started to say I might have stayed up later, but no, I'm pretty sure I went to bed about 8 Tuesday night, and since I was off, I slept until I think 7 o'clock Wednesday morning.
And go from there. What happened that
well, from 7 to about 11 o'clock, I played that game, and then I took my shower and brushed my teeth and shaved and everything to get ready to over to my parents' house to drop some laundry off.
What time was that?
About 11:45, noon, something like that. Because my mom still does all my laundry. Because I was going to do it up there. They've got a laundromat, but she's like, "Oh, you just live 2 blocks away. I'll do it for you." So I took my laundry there and dropped it off for her to do it while I went shopping. And so from about noon to probably 2:30, something like that, I was driving. Actually, I didn't leave town like I told you earlier. I don't know why I even said that. I just went here in town to United and Super Thrift. Just did my normal grocery shopping is all it was.
And United is a
supermarket up there next to the Walmart on Green.
Did you buy anything?
Yeah. Actually, I barely remember what I did that day. No, I didn't even go to United. I went to a Super Thrift and Dollar Store, the new dollar store they just built. And I got a few things at each place. Just like I said, just normal food, grocery stuff, some cereals, some milk, some bread. And then, I went back, after that, I went back to my parents' place about, what time was that? I'm so tired right now, I'm having trouble remembering what I did, getting the time straight anyway. Actually, yeah, it was about 3 o'clock when I went over to my parents' place. It was I got back home from shopping about 2 o'clock, then got online and talked to that girl in California, Melissa, for about 45 minutes or so until about 2:45, 2:50. I went back to my parents' place to pick up my laundry, and also they had said come back when my sister got out from school. She wanted me to help her with something on her homework or something like that. And so I went over there. I was there from about 10 till 3 to about 3:30. And when I got back home about 3:30, I noticed that the girl's bike was gone. That she'd gone somewhere on her bike, which kind of struck me as odd because most days it'd be closer to 3:45, 4 o'clock before she'd even show up coming home from school. She walked from school. She walked home from school. I don't know why she didn't ride her bike, but so I knew that meant she had come home. And because of what I really wanted to do, I had kind of planned it for that day, but I mean I'd been planning it for like every day for like a month pretty much. I'd planned to get her as she walked in from school before she had a chance to even go upstairs, and so it would look like she never came home from school. Is what I wanted. But I was surprised and kind of annoyed to learn that she'd already been upstairs and come home and been upstairs and gone again. So I hung around waiting for her, and about 10-15 minutes after that, probably about 3:45 or so, something like that, she came back home, just she didn't chain her bike up, she just propped it up against the stairwell there and went upstairs and came back down about 4 o'clock in a new outfit.
She had changed clothes.
Yeah. On the first time she came home, before she went and changed clothes, she stopped, she saw me stand there, and she was just like, oh, this is horrible. I came home from school and realized I'd forgot my house keys at home and had to go back and get them, and it's so hot today and I have to go up a big hill, and she was just complaining about how hot she was, and she couldn't believe how hot it was around here. She said she didn't think it ever got that hot in Dibble, where she used to live. And then she went upstairs and came back down in a new outfit with a mug of ice milk, which the mug's also in the bag with the bicycle parts. Okay. And she came down again, started talking about
her bike was still unlocked right there.
Yeah, it was still sitting there unlocked, which was good because that had been my plan all along, was to take the bike too. So if I couldn't get her on her way home from school to take the bike, so it would look like she was out on her bike and got kidnapped or run off or something like that. Anyway, she came downstairs and was still, she's like, oh, there's nothing when it's this hot, nothing good like a good, glass of ice milk. And she, kind of chatted for a minute and then asked to come inside and see my rat again. And she just sat there on the floor looking at my rat. And about the only TV I ever watch is cartoons, Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, and SpongeBob was on. And so she was kind of sitting there watching that, and we were talking about the show a little. And she was in my apartment probably a good 15 minutes. And after she'd been in there a few minutes, when she first came in, I was like, oh, now's my chance. But, then I had the same, no, I can't do it. And I just kind of struggled with myself the whole time she was in there. And
it was a struggle between right and wrong?
Yeah, or kind of, yeah, both that and, not wanting to get caught. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was partly because, I can't do this, I don't want to do it. But then, I want to do this. And
there's a little bit of fear like, hey, if I do this, I might get caught.
Yeah, that was a large part of it too. But anyway, and then I even had I had all the stuff. I'd had all the stuff sitting there handy on that entertainment center right by my door. I'd had like for the last month I'd had a piece of duct tape stuck there, so I could just grab them and slap the tape over their mouth, and also the handcuffs sitting there on the shelf, so I could yank them in and restrain them hopefully before they had the time to yell or anything. And Oh, and also, it had been just 2 or 3 nights before that I'd, suddenly thought of it was mainly something I had reserved for if I did grab an adult, something to subdue him. I tried to find something heavy I could hopefully hit him on the head and knock him out with. And the best thing I had was a slightly heavy wooden cutting board in the kitchen. So I had that sitting on the entertainment center at that time, too. And after she'd been in there a few minutes, I kind of...
So it'd be ready, so you'd have access right there at you.
Yeah, just kind of like yank him in and whack him over the head. But I hadn't planned on doing that if it was a kid, because if it was a kid, like I said, I wanted to keep him conscious and make him watch porn. But I even also kind of, also was, as they were watching the porn, depending on how old they were, like telling them what was going on. Like, well, this is sex. The guy does this and the woman does this, and, this is called an orgasm. Kind of like teaching them. But, and hopefully they'd want to try it for themselves. Something like that. But anyway, then, so I kind of, once she got in there, I kind of was like, it was more the kind of regrets and fears, and I was like, I better just knock her out, and, then restrain her while she's unconscious, get her clothes off and everything while she's unconscious, and I'm not even going to bother with the porn. I'm just going to, knock her out and rape her. So after she'd been in there a few minutes, I kind of, made my way around behind her and was just kind of standing behind her, watching, talking to her as we were watching the show, and kind of, fighting with myself. I'd grabbed reached up there once and grabbed the cutting board, and, then I put it down on the couch. I couldn't do it. And so for like 5 minutes, I just stood there, going back and forth, picking it up, putting it back down, and saying, and finally I was just, look, either do it or tell her to get the hell out of the apartment, and finally I did it. And, as soon as I hit her.
What did she say when you hit her?
That's something that's, haunted me ever since it happened. She started yelling, "I'm sorry," which, I'm just like, what is she sorry for? She didn't do anything wrong. It's me, I'm the one that should be sorry. She was just, I whacked her over the head. It made a loud noise. If there was anyone home, apparently no one had been home in the apartment next to me or above me, or I would have been caught for sure, because it did knock her out. She started screaming.
Kevin, how did you hold the board? I'm not clear to me how you hit her.
It had, it was like a square with, like a little hole cut out like a handle. And I just held it by the handle and like whacked.
With one hand like a...
Yeah, just like whacked her upside the side of the head.
Where did you hit her on the head? Can you put on my head where you hit her?
I was standing behind her, so yeah, it was probably about like that, something like that.
Okay, right here?
Yeah, maybe down farther on the side. It was probably kind of the side top. But, because I think I did it with this hand. No, it was probably this hand because I'm right-handed and that was my stronger hand, so yeah, it was probably this. Right.
And you were behind her? Yeah,
I was behind her and just whack.
And she was where?
Sitting in the floor, like in front of the TV and the rat cage.
Okay.
It was right up against the rat cage almost. I had to kind of wait for her to get in a position. I didn't want her to like fall over on the rat cage. But, so I whacked her with that, and she's like, ow, and started crying, and she's like, oh God, I'm sorry, my God, I'm sorry, and just saying I'm sorry over and over mostly. And so I whacked her again, and she jumped up, and I couldn't believe it didn't knock her out. I hit her. It's all kind of a blur once it started happening, but I hit her, I think 3 times, maybe 4. But
each time with the same cutting board?
Yeah.
And as hard as you could?
Yeah, every time I got harder, because I was like,
She's not going down?
Yeah, so I'm like, why isn't she unconscious yet?
Because you think when you hit somebody, hit her, don't go, because you see it on TV.
Yeah.
Did she resist?
Yeah, she, like I said, she jumped, she was yelling, God, I'm sorry, and, let me go, I won't tell. And, after I hit her a couple times, I finally just had to, jump up and grab her, and I couldn't believe how strong she was. I could barely hold her down. I like to never got her down to the ground. I had to, I didn't want to choke her, because like I said, I wanted the body to be pretty much perfect. So I didn't want to leave the, marks around her neck or anything, so I just, climbed my hand over.
Were you behind her? Or were you looking,
Yeah.
did you have her on the ground?
No, I was, like I said, she got up and was trying to run around, and I, grabbed her from behind, was kind of hugging her with her mouth over her, hand over her mouth and nose. And eventually, after she started getting weaker and stuff, and I mean, we flopped around. I've got pretty bad carpet burns on my knees from it, because I said she put up a...
And just for me to understand, let's see, this is your right leg?
It's on both of them, but this one's the worst.
So you were wearing shorts at the time?
Yeah.
And you're telling me this is from the incident with...
Yeah.
Okay. Because you were on...
Yeah, it's from struggling.
You were struggling on behind
struggling with her on the ground. Because then, once I, I finally got her down to the ground, finally got her, I mean, we struggled. It took me probably 15, 20 minutes to kill her. To get her completely dead. Because then even after, well, anyway, I, struggled with her for a minute, finally got her down to the ground on her stomach. And so I was kind of sitting on her back, with my mouth over. Or, no, she was on her back, yeah, but I was sitting on her, clamping my hand
So
down.
you were looking down at her face and you were covering her mouth.
Yeah, kind of sitting on her, not really putting my full weight on her, kind of like on my knees with a little bit of my weight on her stomach to hold her down. And
Did you feel aroused at that point?
very, yeah. By the time I got done killing her, my underwear was soaked. When you get aroused, it'll start, kind of leaking a little.
Pre-ejaculation.
Yeah, it was. My underwear was pretty much soaked by the time she, well, even before she was completely dead. But,
So are you telling me you were sexually gratified during this struggle?
pretty much, yeah.
Did you have an orgasm,
I
or
didn't,
was it just...
I didn't orgasm, but I was, very, very aroused.
You had an erection?
Yeah. And, just standing there behind her debating on killing her or not, I was starting to get an erection. But anyway, then she still, once she was down on the floor, she kept me almost slipping out of my grip, and she ended up, on her stomach at one point. Yeah, she ended up on her stomach, because I remember there's a toolbox sitting there by the edge of the love seat. And, as kind of in like her last moment, she just started kind of reaching around, grabbing things, and she opened that toolbox. And then she pretty much went limp, and I laid there on her for a good, couple of minutes more to make sure she was dead, because she'd still, every now and then, because, clamping through she could still get kind of a little bit of air sometimes through her fingers if my grip slipped a little bit. So I laid there for a while, and finally was pretty sure she was dead. Flopped her over, and then about 30 seconds later, she took a breath. So I had to jump on her and do it again, and it took probably several more, it's probably wasn't as long as it seemed like, but it seemed like it took her another 5 minutes to get her limp then. And then finally, when I was pretty sure she was dead again, I jumped up and grabbed the duct tape and put it over her mouth and nose, because I was getting tired. My arms were getting sore from clamping down on her for so long.
I was give up a tight seal on her lips. That way you wouldn't have to hold her anymore.
Yeah.
You could ensure it was gone.
Yeah, I could make sure she didn't start breathing again this time.
Okay.
And then, once I got her taped up, I drug her into the bedroom so I could open the front door and wheel her bike in.
Where'd you put her when you put her in the bedroom?
Just there in the floor, between the computer desk and the bed. I just wheeled her kind of right through the door, far enough that I could close the door so I could open the front door without anyone seeing.
Do you remember any of your neighbors seeing you talk to her that day right before she came to the apartment?
Unless they were looking out the peephole or anything, I don't think any of the neighbors had ever seen her talk to me at all.
Okay.
But, and, that was one of the things I was always so nervous about is, with the apartment right across from me, they had a door with a peephole, and I'm, what if they're looking out the peephole as I grab the kid, something like that.
So anyway, you took her back in there, then you went outside. Did you get the bike?
Yeah, I got the bike, wheeled it in. First, I stuck it in the big walk-in closet just to get it out of the way. 'Cause, my head's so low to the ground, I wouldn't have went under the bed until I removed the pedals and everything. And, that was the main, what I thought, all along was the main flaw in my plan, because with my plan to eat her and everything, it seemed like the bike was going to be a lot harder to dispose of than the body.
So you'd given some thought about, hey, I got to get rid of this bike.
Yeah. And then I never, like I said, I never actually had sex with her. But after I got her bike in, she was laying there in the bedroom, and I stripped her clothes off of her.
Where'd you put the clothes after you took them off?
At that time, I just threw them in the floor, and they were all wet and smelly. She'd wet herself when I was choking her. But I took her clothes off and licked her nipples a little, and kind of smelled her vagina, and I kind of got the tip of my penis in her, but that was it, because I was going to try to have sex with her right there. But
when you say in her, can you describe what body part that would be?
Her vagina. I didn't even, like I said, I just kind of, I was going to, but the way she was like laying right on the floor, I couldn't really get to her very good, so I just kind of tip of my penis kind of rubbed her vagina a little bit. It might have, as far as like DNA goes, there might be some of that pre-ejaculate on her. But
did you take all your clothes off?
Yeah, like as soon as I got the bike in, I stripped myself down, then stripped her down, and was going to have sex with her, and found out I couldn't, so I was going to move her. Move her into the living room onto the couch, where I had like a big beach towel. It's in the box with her, a big red beach towel that I had bought to lay down on the couch so I didn't get anything on the couch.
Were you thinking at that time? Were you thinking about hair, blood? You wanted to keep that from off your couch.
Blood and sex fluids and stuff like that.
You didn't want somebody coming in later and analyzing the couch.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And so I was going to drag her in there to the living room, but she, big for her age. Paper said she's like 110 pounds, and I was having a hard time, flopping her over and rolling her around and dragging her around. So I decided just at that point, because that was the reason I'd always wanted to. My plan had always been to behead them while they were alive, was so the blood would coagulate and I could get all the blood out, like you would when you butcher an animal. And that way, so both of the meat wouldn't be bloody, and so when I put her in my bed, hopefully she wouldn't leak any blood out on the bed and stuff. And so I was like, well, it's a lot closer, and I don't want, she's already been dead maybe 10, 15 minutes, and so I don't want the blood to get all coagulated, so I'm just going to go ahead and drag her into the tub and behead her, and then have sex with her body. And I got her in there, draped over the side of the tub, which, I thought I was stronger than that, but I could barely get her up on that tub. And got a big knife. It's in it wasn't a butcher knife, it's one of the knives in my collection. It's the only knife in my collection, really. It's this big, ornate, like, dagger. And it always seemed like it was pretty sharp, so that's what I was going to use. And I got her in there and propped her over the tub, she was out of the tub with, just like her head, over the edge, hanging into the tub. And I, kind of got there. I put a rubber band in her hair so it'd be out of the way, and because I didn't even want to, like I said, I wanted the body perfect and clean. I didn't want to get blood all in her hair, so I'd have to wash it and everything. And so I started sawing at her neck. I couldn't believe the amount of blood that came out of a girl that small, and it was already all clotted and everything.
Was it going down the drain of your tub?
I had a bowl, a big, white bowl. It's in the kitchen on top of the microwave. I was going to try to collect, a lot of the blood in that, probably taste of it. And but then when it started coming out, it was, pretty much hard to get to go where I wanted it. And like I said, it was already all dark and clotted and gross looking anyway. So most of it was just going down the tub. I had the water running, and it still almost clogged the drain. It was so clotted already. And
did you ever pour any Drano down the toilet?
I didn't have any Drano. I was going to go out and buy some. But all I had was, I poured like some other cleansers, some toilet bowl cleanser and stuff down there to help hopefully break it up a little bit. Because I was afraid it'd like back the pipes up or something and back up into other people's apartment or something. And, they'd know something was going on when they, then they'd find her missing and know that someone in the apartment complex killed her.
Okay. So you had trouble sawing her head off?
Yeah, that's what, I was trying to remember where I was. I went, got, I guess, to her spine, and I just sawed and could not get it at last. And I was pretty much exhausted by then. And like I said, as soon as I hit her, I wished I hadn't started this, but, as soon as I hit her the first time, I was like, well, now it's too late. I can't stop now. Yeah. That was the only reason I even went through with any of it. And then, like I said, I was disgusted at first, but then once I was climbing down on top of her, holding her down, choking her, I got aroused again. But so at this point, yeah, I was just disgusted as I got this mess, and because I couldn't even keep the blood in the tub, it was running down her and right down the side of the tub into the floor. And I was like, at this point, I'm just clean up this mess and get the body out of here. I'm not even going to have sex with her.
Okay.
And so I was already pretty upset. I can't believe I did this. Wish I hadn't did it. Wish I could take it back.
Right.
And
So at that point, did you start thinking of coming up with a plan that I won't get caught?
yeah, I had to change all my plans since I was going to be a body. And
And were you thinking, how am I going to dispose of the body and how am I going to dispose of the bicycle?
yeah, I had bought that big Rubbermaid container she's in. I had bought that specifically for this too, but not
Can
for
you describe that for us, since we don't have a picture of it here?
It was just a big, I think it was like 50-liter, big gray, Rubbermaid container, like storage container with a, lid on it.
Where did you buy that?
It's been weeks,
Did you get it
probably
from Walmart?
3 or 4 weeks, yeah, from the Walmart Supercenter in Norman.
Did you, and you bought it for the purpose of your plan?
I bought it for the purpose of, because like I said, I wanted to keep the body around for a couple of days, but I wanted to still be able to eat it when I was done, so I didn't want it to go bad. I wanted to get an ice chest, but they didn't really have any ice chests big enough to put a kid in that weren't like really expensive. So I just was like, well, I'll get a big container like this. It seals fairly well, and just keep a bunch of bags of ice in there.
Did you keep your receipts from when you bought that stuff?
No.
Did you pay cash?
I pay cash most of the time. Sometimes I use credit card. That particular time I might have used a credit card, but I don't know.
Okay.
And I don't usually keep my receipts. Occasionally I'll throw them down on the table when I get home, and I don't clean very often, so some of them might still be there, but I can't say whether or not that one is.
Okay. So at this point, you decide you're going to put her in the tub?
That container,
That
yeah,
container,
I was
yeah.
be like, yeah,
I call it a tub, I'm sorry.
yeah, the plan all along for disposing of the bones was to use that duffel bag thing, but then I was hoping I'd still get the body in there, but I got her and realized, well, no, she's way too big for this, and I liked to never even got her in that tub because
Was the duffel bag, was it bought for this plan too?
No, I'd had the duffel bag for several years.
Okay. I'm sorry, Rob.
But anyway, and when I said from about 4 to, I was probably more like 5 to 6:30. I was online talking to that girl in California while the half beheaded corpse was sitting there in the sitting up propped against the tub draining because.
Was in your mind that I need to set up an alibi for where I was? Because you seem to say when we were talking to you, like, hey, yeah, she can vouch for me.
No, I came up with that after. I was just genuinely. I decided that so I went to try to get rid of the body, but they was still bleeding too much, and stomach contents were pouring out of the neck, and so I was like, well, I'm going to let it sit here for a few hours and coagulate some more, so maybe I can move it without it bleeding everywhere so much. So I just kind of went about my business with this. I closed the door because the bathroom, because like I said, I was sick, sick to my stomach that I'm doing this. I didn't even want to see the corpse, and I just kind of closed it up in the bathroom with some incense burning to cover up the vomit smell from going up the air vent, because I
smelled like vomit where she was coming out.
yeah, the stomach contents were leaking out of her neck when I tried to move her. Because, I can often smell things coming from other people's apartments when they're cooking something strong, and I don't want people to smell the blood and vomit, so I put some strong incense burning in there and closed all the doors. And, I just sat there at the computer for a couple hours, talking to her. I wasn't talking much because, I was feeling really sick and, really bad. But, I was literally physically sick, partially from what I did, and partially I was, wore out and sweating and hot from the exertion, and I don't do well in warm temperatures. It's just sitting there in that was part of what was making me sick, sitting back there in that office, because it was, even in here it's too hot for me. It feels pretty good in here, but I grew up in a house, my parents kept it like 70 degrees pretty much all the time in the house. So anything over 70 degrees, I start to get hot. So I was, just sick to my stomach about the vomit, and so But I was sitting there at the computer talking to her until, well, then about that same time, I was talking to her, but I was also occasionally stepping outside, helping them look for the girl, stuff like that, kind of setting it up an alibi there, and acting like I was all concerned about her missing.
When did you first notice they were looking for her?
Pretty much right after I killed her, I looked out and I noticed the dad got home a little early. It seemed like he was home before 5, I think, and it was probably about 5 or so. I noticed him out there starting to walk around and get in his truck and drive around, and then I went out there one of the times specifically so he could ask me, "Have you seen her?" and I could say no. And so he did, and I was like, and I told him the story. The last time I saw her come home from school. She went upstairs, came back down, got on her bike, rode off. That's the last time I saw her. And then, like I said, I was stepping out there occasionally, acting, like I was keeping a watch for her in case she came back while Dad was gone, and talking to the manager and all that and stuff. And, I hope they find her soon. This is horrible. Just kind of setting up and making myself look concerned, but not too concerned, because then that would make me look suspicious too. So. And then finally, about 8 o'clock or so, I told him, I'd like to stay out here and help, but I've got to get back to bed because I got to, work early in the morning. And then, I went inside and finally finished cleaning up the body, and it's still bled everywhere, and I had to wash the tub out and wash the floor, scrub the floor.
To get the body in the tub, do you have to cut limbs off? Or?
No, she's not cut up at all except for the neck.
So you just basically compacted her body?
Yeah, and by that time, that was the reason I had such a hard time getting her into that, is because by that time she was already stiff, and she had been in like a kneeling position on the tub, so her legs were like all bent up like this. And, I couldn't get her knees to go down far enough to get the lid on. That was the main reason it was taped on at first, because it wouldn't go down far enough to snap on, so I snapped it on and taped it down so it stays snapped on. And then yesterday I went in there and, taped it more to seal it, and, in case it started smelling. Smells wouldn't get out. Smell out.
The clothes that you were wearing during all this, did you put those in the box with it?
No, I still wore them the next day, even though.
So you didn't get much blood?
I didn't. Well, every time I'd go, I wore them when I was choking her. But then, when I was cleaning up the messes and cutting her head off and everything, I took my clothes back off.
So
except for a pair of underwear, a pair of gray underwear, which I think I stuck back in my underwear drawer. I didn't get anything on them either.
So it was just in the tub, it's just her body and the clothes she was wearing?
Her body, yeah.
The tub being the blue.
Yeah, the blue.
I call it a tub.
To be different from the bathtub that you're talking about.
I tried to move her, but she was still making a huge mess. So I got a tarp I had also bought for this purpose. But
how long ago was that?
About the same time I bought the tub, like the container. I bought it at the local Walmart, I think, though.
Okay.
But what was I saying?
So that tarp is in there too.
Yeah, it's in a. So I went to move her and she was bleeding everywhere. So I bought the tarp for the purpose of not getting blood, because I was going to have sex with him on the couch, but when I went to torture him and stuff, I was probably going to put him on the floor of the tarp because there'd probably be some blood. And so I bought it for that. But then when I went to move her, I was like, I can't even move her. She's so heavy. So I'm going to try to flop her over onto this tarp, and maybe I can slide the tarp around a little better and wrap her up in that. So I kind of laid her on the tarp and folded it over a little, and then got her in some trash bags as good as I could.
Okay. And when I opened it up, I saw the blue shirt. Did you just like kind of put her clothes folded on top of all this stuff?
Afterwards, yeah, I put that red towel's on the bottom of the tub to soak up any blood or anything. Because at first I figured I'd just dump the body somewhere, wash the tub out, and bring it back. But then at the end, I was like, I don't even want to open the tub and look at this body again. I'm just going to drag the tub out to a field and set it on fire. Because I'd been part of the plan all along. If somehow I wasn't able to eat them and there was a body left over, You know, because here until just a week or two ago, you know, we were having like a
Burn ban.
really bad drought. You know, the fires were just breaking out all over. So I was just going to drag her out to a field and set it on fire.
And you have a big fire.
Yeah, fire had burned most of the remains and you know, kind of destroy any like hairs and DNA evidence I'd left in the field, hopefully. God, I'm tired and sick again. But so anyway, I got her into those bags. Finally got her into the tub, but couldn't get her knees in there. I finally was able to maneuver a little in there. I could get the lid at least halfway on, and I taped it down.
Okay. You duct tape the ceiling.
Yeah, I did that yesterday. I quickly sealed it.
And when'd you take the bike apart?
Was it the same night? Yeah, I think I did that in the same night, Wednesday night. And then I was going to go home tonight, and because even that frame that was left over that I couldn't take apart was, I think, still going to be too big for the duffel bag, so I was going to try to use my hacksaw to cut it up a little bit tonight.
And did you already have all the tools that you needed to take the bike apart?
Yeah.
You didn't have to go anywhere to borrow any tools or anything?
No. Parents got me a box of tools for my 18th birthday.
Okay, you just had those at the house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kevin, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just nauseous again.
Okay.
Exhausted.
Take a break for a second.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, let's take a breather for just a second.
I stink.
Just like a shower.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure he's okay. 5 would you